I'd like to welcome everybody to the Planning Commission meeting today. And our first item is going to be, let's hear the announcements, please.
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. For those in attendance, copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure, and Planning Department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representatives to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please share your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the room. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. All speakers at the podium, please remove your face mask before speaking into the microphone. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the Commission and the Board will be retained by the Secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking, but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please provide your contact information to the Planning Department. The Planning Commission and the Board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on all the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as courteous and concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available from the planning staff. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to the District Court.
Thank you. We'll have roll call now.
Yes, sir. Bill Johnson?
Yes.
Ann Fox is not here. Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Shane Gross, seat is vacant. Green?
Here.
Jewell?
Here.
Blick? Not present. Nix? Foster?
Here.
Warren?
Here.
Joe Johnson?
Here.
Miles?
Present.
Hartman? Florence? Mr. Florence? Not present. 1, 2, 3, 4. I show 4 not present, 10 present.
Scott, should we go ahead and announce the ones that have been deferred?
Yes, sir. I think that would be advisable.
If anybody's here for vacation case 2021-00048, item 3.1 on the agenda, that has been deferred. Also, item 3.2, vacation case 2021-00049, has also been deferred. And, I believe that's it, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's have approval of the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting of December 2nd.
Second.
Got a motion approved by Mr. Hartman, second by Mr. Green.
Mr.
Any
Chairman,
discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't here and I was here. According, my name's not on it. I was here last time. They don't have me being absent, they don't have me being here, so
Okay,
I was kind of like the,
see how
so
you are.
I will abstain.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
And
Yeah, Joe Johnson abstained too.
yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, the first case, I'm gonna go through these and see if we can take any of them on consent. The first one is a subdivision item 2.1, 2021-00048, one-step final plat on Bay Ridge, second edition. Anybody on the commission wanna hear this case? Anybody virtual on the commission wanna hear this case? Anybody in the chamber here want to hear this case? Anybody virtual want to hear this case? You can take us on consent. Subdivision 2021-00050. It's the multimedia facility edition. Does anybody on the commission want to hear this case? Any commissioners virtual want to hear this case? Anybody in the chamber want to hear this case? Anybody virtual want to hear this case? Take it on consent. The next one is subdivision 2021-00054. Does anybody on the commission want to hear this case? Any commission members that are virtual want to hear this case? Anybody in the chamber here want to hear this case? No?
He wants to hear zoning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody virtual want to hear this case? Seeing none, we can take that on consent. Do I have a motion?
We'll move. Items 2, 1, 2, 2, and 2, 3. Second?
Approved by Commissioner McKay, second by Commissioner Warren. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, now we're gonna move on to the vacation cases. We have one, 3.3, vacation case 2021-00050. Vacation of the west 35-foot setback located on Lot 1, Sander Addition, located on Southwest Street and McCormick. Anybody on the commission want to hear this case? Any commissioners that are virtual want to hear this case? Anybody in the chamber want to hear this case?
Excuse me, I do want to hear this case. 3.3.
Okay, we'll go through additionals 2021-00051. We're going to have a staff update on that, correct?
Sorry, sir. Can you restate that? I'm sorry.
Do we have a staff update on 4.1?
Yes, sir, we do. Yes. Matt, if you could just update them on the status of the Goddard recommendation.
Okay.
Since this was deferred, we're just going to get an update so we don't hear the whole case again.
Yeah, we deferred this at the last meeting to give Goddard a chance to weigh on this before it came to the Planning Commission. It was heard by the City of Goddard's Planning Commission on Monday, and they approved it unanimously.
Thank you. With that said, does anybody on the commission want to hear this case? Any commissioners that are virtual want to hear this case? Anybody in the chamber want to hear this case? Anybody virtual want to hear this case? take that on consent. Next one's 4.2, additional 2021-00055. Child Day Care Center. Anybody on the chamber want to hear, right, commission want to hear this case? Any commissioners that are virtual want to hear this case? Anybody in the commission chamber want to hear this case? Anybody virtual want to hear this case? Take on this on consent. 2021-00056. I think we're going to hear this case, aren't we?
Sir, we do believe that we have a resident who would like to hear this one. Nancy Hill, we understand, would like to hear this case.
Hear it then.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I would.
Next one's 4.4, conditional use 2021-00057. Allow for vehicle sales on LC commercial zone, 31st Street South and Hillside area. Anybody on the commission want to hear this case? Any of the commissioner virtual want to hear this case? Anybody in the chamber want to hear this case? Anybody virtual want to hear this case? We can take that on consent. Conditional 4.5.
Am I able to say something?
Mr. Chairman, it looks like we're getting some noise or feedback from Mr. Dominique. And
yeah, I apologize. This is something completely new to us. We're the owners of the new building. We were just saying if you guys needed us here for anything at all, I just would like to be a part of whatever was going on.
So, Mr. Dominique, we're in the process of determining which cases are going by consent, which means that it would be approved without conversation, or whether you'll have to be present for that. So please stand by.
Absolutely. Sorry about that.
Okay. 4.5, conditional case 2021-00059. I think we're going to have some more information on that.
Well, sir, with this one, there is also a BZA variance that's been applied, and the staff have determined that the variance should not go before, so the BZA case should not be heard or determined before this conditional use. However, if the Planning Commission chooses, you may take this conditional use by consent.
So anybody on the chamber or commission want to hear this case?
Yeah.
We have to determine if we approve 4.5 on consent. If we can, then we can take the BZA case later. But they don't want to approve the BZA before this item's approved.
Yes, sir. And the clarification, Mr. Nix, is that the variance is a request to not have to do the landscaping around this utility use. So the question is whether or not the utility use will be approved. And if it is, then the landscaping can be considered. But if not, then it may not make sense to take the variance case.
Anybody on the commission want to hear this case? Any commission members virtual want to hear this case? Anybody in the chamber here want to hear this case? Anybody virtual want to hear this case? Take it on consent. Next case is CUP 2021-00062. And this is a case that we had deferred from last week. The DAB heard this case and supported it. 6-0, was it?
Yes, sir. My understanding is that it was unanimous, and Kathy Morgan is confirming that, yes.
Anybody on the commission want to hear this case? Okay, we're going to hear that case. The next one is zoning 2021-00054. City zone change from SF5 to TEF3. Hoover and West MacArthur. Anybody on the commission want to hear this case? Any of the commissioners virtual want to hear this case? Anybody in the chamber want to hear this case? We'll hear this case. Next one's zoning case 2021-00055. Change from SF20 to MF18, 135th Street West and 13th Street. Anybody on the commission want to hear this case? Any commissioner virtual want to hear this case? Anybody in the chamber want to hear this case? We'll hear this case. Next one's 4.9. Zoning case 2021-00056. Conditional use of 2021-00058. Change from RR residential to SF20. Conditional use to allow accessory apartment neighborhood swimming. Located on 29th Street North and 127th Street East. Anybody on the commission want to hear this case? Any commissioners virtual want to hear this case? Anybody in the chamber want to hear this case? Anybody virtual want to hear this case? Take that on consent.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve items 4.1, 4.2, 4.4, 4.5, and 4.9.
Second.
Second.
Got a motion to approve per Mr. Green, second by
Mr.
Dool. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Now I think we should move to the BZA.
5.1.
Okay, we're going to leave the commission meeting and go to the BZA. First item is approve the minutes of December 2nd. Move to approve by Mr. Hartman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Warren. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the first case is
Abstain.
Joe will have to abstain from that.
Right.
Next one's BZA 2021-00067. And the applicant and staff are not in agreement on this one. So we'll hear this.
Good afternoon, Philip Zievenbergen with planning staff. The request for a variance, this application is a request for a variance to waive the screening and landscaping requirements on the north property line and the south property line on a property located at 915 North Hoover. On December 2nd, the Planning Commission recommended approval of a zone change for this property from single-family SF5 to MF18, multifamily residential with a PO that would restrict development to no more than duplexes. If you go to the site plan, Paul, the applicant is considering or anticipating building 4 duplexes along the north property line and using the existing drive on a property to the north as the access for the parking area for the duplexes. The applicant owns the property to the north, and one of the conditions of approval in the protective overlay of the zone change was that an access easement be dedicated to protect that access. Because the property to the north is zone TF3 and this one is awaiting approval to be MF18, they would be required to have a 6-foot screening fence as well as landscaping per the applicable codes along the north property line and the south property line. Specifically for the north property line, in order to use that access drive, they would not be able to do their screening or landscaping, or to say that backwards, if they were required to use the screening and landscaping, they wouldn't be able to use the access drive that they want to. So they are requesting the variance for that purpose on the north end. The south end, they're requesting the variance. If you go to the aerial, you can kind of see it on the site plan here, but the aerial shows it a little bit better. There's the existing driveway for the single-family home along the south property line. The south property line already has a 6-foot screening fence, and so the request was to waive the screening and landscaping requirements for both the north and south property lines. So where staff and the applicant, I don't say disagree, but staff disagrees with the request is there's already the space for a screening fence. And so when we determined our staff evaluation of the 5 conditions for a variance, our evaluation said the screening requirement on the south side should not be waived because it's already there. And that way, if this portion of the property is redeveloped in the future away from the single family home to duplex development, that screening can be there and not be waived should the fence ever come down. That way, at least the screening can be there. Staff's evaluation of the landscaping is in agreement with the applicant's argument that there's really no space. If we go through the site pictures, we can see that. So this is the access drive on the north. This is what the applicant wants to use to access the parking area for the duplexes. And so the north property line is right here. And this is where they are requesting not having a screening fence or landscaping to make use of this existing driveway. These are and you can actually see here, this property has a screening fence screening this duplex from this driveway because this driveway accesses a duplex behind it. So in a sense, there's a little bit of screening there already anyway. Next picture. This is looking at the single family home. Next picture. This is looking at the existing driveway south of the single family home. You can see the screening fence that's there. And you can see that there is little to no room to accomplish the screening requirement that would require planting of trees, whether shade or ornamental. And so that's where staff evaluation says that the screening requirement should remain, but the landscaping requirement, there's really just no space. This is a single family home to the south. This is a single family home right now. If it was redeveloped for duplexes, if it was a TF3 zoning, there wouldn't be the need for landscaping anyway. So our evaluation says that screening and landscaping on the north side should be waived and landscaping alone waived on the south property line. Keep going on the site pictures. Just give you a character of the area. These are the duplexes to the north. Next picture, please. This is the single family home across the street. Next picture, and this is looking south along Hoover at single family homes as well. So I'm not going to go through each individual point as you can read it in your staff report, but I'll just summarize again what I just said. Staff evaluation feels that it is efficient use of an existing driveway along the north property line to access the proposed parking area for the duplex development versus requiring the applicant to use more buildable area on the existing lot to provide their own driveway, especially since it's under common ownership and there will be an access easement dedicated to protect that access. Again, to reiterate that there is just little space for landscaping on the south side, but the fact that there's already an existing 6-foot screening fence, that the screening requirement on the south side not be waived. With that, I can stand for any questions.
Any questions of staff? Guess not. Applicant or agent?
Kirk Miller, K. Miller Engineering. I'm the agent. And we were fine with we're fine with the recommendation from staff if this is approved, as far as the screening.
Any questions, Agent?
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the chamber like to speak on this item? Anybody virtual want to hear speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to commission.
Move that we approve per staff comments, recommendations, that the 5 requirements have been met.
Approved by Ms. Foster. Who seconded it?
Joe Johnson.
Joe Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Next item. BZA 2021-00069. Another landscape deal.
Yeah, good afternoon, Commissioners. Matt Williams. This is BZA 2021-69. Can you move to the aerial picture? The applicant is requesting a variance to waive landscaping requirements on this property that's zone limited commercial. The property is located on the northwest corner of MacArthur and South Seneca. The property is developed with an electric substation, which was allowed via the conditional use that was just approved a few moments ago. The applicant is intending to expand this electric substation and enhance it. There is going to be a masonry wall that's going to be constructed around the site that will act as a sort of screening. But the Wichita Landscape Ordinance requires a landscape street yard along the south and east frontages of the subject property due to the arterial streets. The applicant believes that these requirements should be waived due to posing a safety risk to the public with the electric substation being there. Staff analysis finds that waiving the landscape requirements would adversely affect the public interest and is against the spirit and intent of the code. The expanded substation pad should still allow space for a landscaped street yard along both street frontages. The applicant has not explained why the landscaping would pose a risk, but the available space should allow for small shrubs and ornamental trees that would not interfere with the substation. Wichita's landscape ordinance seeks to protect residential developments from surrounding uses, soften harsh expanses of pavement, and screen undesirable views. With this being located at the intersection of 2 arterials, leaving a blank masonry wall would be detrimental to the area. Should the board determine that all 5 conditions necessary to grant the variance can be found to exist, then it's recommended that the site be developed according to the attached site plan. Let's move through some of these photos. Here's the site plan. You can see the electric substation is expanding a lot to the north and to the west, but along the 2 street frontages, it's expanding just a few feet to the east and a handful of feet to the south. Next slide. Here's a look at that existing substation. You can see that there is some landscaping there. I will note that there is going to be a new masonry wall that's going to be built all the way around it. Next slide. Here's across the street to the east. This is a commercial property that's vacant right now, and there's a single-family house right there as well. Next slide. This is to the south, the zone PUD, but vacant right now. Next slide. Here's to the west. There's a car wash and a warehouse. Next slide. And here's to the north. There's 2 apartment buildings. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff? Seeing none, thank you. Oh.
Matt, so the staff's assessment is that there's enough room on the east side to put landscaping without causing any kind of line of sight or clearance problems for traffic coming in and out of that location.
Let's see if I have that written down here. There's roughly, if you go to the site plan, there's going to be roughly 60 feet on the south of property.
Yeah,
for
south
and then the
look like
east.
A big problem.
Let me see if I can look at my site plan a little bit better. I believe there's between a 10 and 20 foot area for landscaping there on the property.
We don't have any vision of triangle problems.
You know, we haven't had a traffic engineer look at that, but that was not a reason brought up for why there shouldn't be landscaping.
Any other questions?
Yes, just to confirm, you said there's going to be a masonry wall around the entire expanded substation, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, the site plan indicates that it will be around the large hatched area.
Any other questions? Thank you, Matt. Applicant or agent?
Good afternoon, Charlie Brown with PEC. We are representing Kansas Evergy South Incorporated, our electric company, Evergy. The site plan that you see does show the wall going around the entire hatched area. The issues that Evergy has is on the south, especially large trees and power lines just don't seem to mix. They spend a lot of money every year trimming trees, tall trees, to avoid any conflict with the power lines. One thing that is not shown on this plan that hasn't been determined fully is the extent of the substation improvements. There will be additional poles coming out of the substation to the south. You can see, if we could get the street view looking at this, yeah, you can see the tall power line structure there, pole. There'll probably be more of those west of that location in the area that's being expanded. So tall trees, we respectfully request that we not be required to put any tall shade trees in. And on the ornamentals and shrubs, the Evergy people are basically told me that this attracts birds, which attracts snakes, which gets into the power lines, squirrels, whatever. So any type of vegetation is an attraction to rodents and other animals that can be a detriment to the substation operation. There are existing shrubs on the east side of the existing fenced-in area. Those are some red leaf barberries. They are totally overgrown with some vines of some type. There are some additional shrubs, similar shrubs on the south side. But we respectfully request that the landscaping be waived in this location.
Any questions, agent? Mr. Nix?
So I'd say you're right as far as tall trees. Small ornamental trees, not going to be any more than 20 feet tall as a tree. Should you choose to use ornamental trees like a red bud or a or that kind of thing, and may attract a few birds, but no snakes or rodents. I think I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think you could use grasses, any number of different kinds of vegetation to soften that fence up. So I'm going to take exception with what you're saying.
Any other questions?
Agree with Mr. Nix in general. I'm sure that Evergy said what you said they said, but I'm not buying it. I will grant that tall shade trees would be problematic in this issue, but there are lots of other vegetative options that could soften that wall for neighbors in the community. And I think I would like to know if after more detailed plans are developed for this site so we know really where the overhead wires are if you then run into problems meeting the requirements of the landscape ordinance, is it possible at that point to have a further discussion on the issue to see if there's some solution? But to just give a blanket, well, don't bother, I don't think that's reasonable in this situation.
Any other questions?
I've got one. Whoop. Bill?
Mr. Hart?
Yeah, I'm wondering if they've changed their policy, because I've done some of these projects in the past when I worked for KG&E, and we were required to put in landscaping and made it work in the past. I'm just wondering why now it's not going to work.
Several projects in the past have required landscaping. Evergy has complied where absolutely necessary. Their preference, and therefore this request is not to do any. So that's why we're here today. Certainly some shrubs or minor trees, whatever, could be accommodated. And I failed to mention that one of our Evergy folks is online, Chris Meyer, and I would like for him to step in if he feels he needs to on this issue. He's in Topeka, and so he's online remote. Otherwise, we'll entertain whatever the board requires. If we eliminate large trees only, I would like to have some guidance on what we do design to. It won't be the regular ordinance, so we're going to have to come to some agreement on what we're going to, how much we're going to be required to do.
Yeah, if I could, this is Chris Meyer with Evergy in Topeka, 818 South Kansas Avenue. I just wanted to comment about our policy. Our policy has always been we try to avoid interfering with specifically transmission lines. The ultimate layout of this substation, as I understand it, will have where we see all those power lines coming in at that one point. Now we'll have probably three separate they call dead end or tap in locations along the south wall, and then there's still two more on the north wall. So I just wanted to point out that there's the transmission likes to have a buffer in there where they don't have any tall trees, and of course, like Charlie said, we don't like to have the opportunity for animals to get in and muck up the works. But so we have abided by landscaping recommendations in the past. So we just want to work with you. We don't want to say that's not our policy. Our policy is to avoid landscaping where possible, but we'll work with you, and we like to make it the least amount of maintenance as possible, because these are largely unmanned substations. There may be somebody there once a month, but we don't have water on site, and we don't have sewer or anything like that. So maintenance of landscaping becomes an issue too. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Mr. Warren?
I don't know if it's a staff question, but I think that we're looking for the middle ground, that we want landscaping, but there are certain things that we don't. Does staff have the ability to review requests of the applicant of what kind of landscaping they want to do without bringing it back to us, or does it need to come back to us?
Well, our planner, Neil Strahl, usually approves the landscape plans, but according to my research, our ordinance requires 1 shade tree or 2 ornamental trees for every 500 feet, but you can substitute 10 shrubs for 1 shade tree or 5 shrubs for 1 ornamental tree, as long as you do not substitute more than 1/3 of the required trees. So I think that maybe gives a little leniency as to what type of vegetation you have there.
That gives us some flexibility, but I don't think it is going to solve the problem of the overhead wires. But is there anything we as a board can do to enforce part of an ordinance, the landscape ordinance. I'm not quite sure the logistics of how this could work.
Sure. I guess this is Scott Wadle, planning staff. I would just point out that there is quite a bit of flexibility in terms of which types of trees, what species of trees that they wish to plant. And so we're just looking for generally what categories. Is it ornamental or is it a shade tree? So as you heard Matt describe, they don't have to put in a shade tree. They don't even have to put in an ornamental tree. It gives them flexibility about bushes, shrubs, ornamental, so they can choose, and they can choose exactly which trees they want to put in. Now, if you, as a BZA, would find that you want to exempt them from putting in tall trees, shade trees, uniformly as part of this, you can, I guess, you could find that the 5 conditions exist to provide a variance from a requirement to put in shade trees, or you could ratchet that down as far as you feel is comfortable. Hopefully, that's a good overview, and it provides you with how either the middle ground that's already provided, or you can also introduce your own middle ground if you like by finding the 5 factors.
I know this much about landscaping.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm wanted to pass that ball off to somebody. Would the staff feel comfortable with having that position?
We have a planner who does those reviews, you know, and has done those in the past. So I would indicate that.
I've worked for a landscape architecture firm here in town for 25 years, so I actually do know a little about landscaping. There are columnar trees, there are small trees, there are large shrubs. I think this is doable, low maintenance, minimal snakes and squirrels.
Thank you.
It's going to have to be done carefully, but I think it's totally doable, and I think for the sake of the neighbors in the neighborhood, I would ask that we not approve the variance, or if we approve it with the exception of not requiring shade trees as opposed to ornamental trees, but otherwise requiring that the landscape ordinance be met.
Mr. Nix.
I'm going to agree with Ms. Foster. I mean, you could set a limit on the height. I mean, we get confused maybe sometimes between ornamental trees and small shade trees. You could call them a shade tree, I suppose.
There's overlap,
you're sort of
yes.
splitting hairs, but as far as birds and that sort of thing, you might be better off with a small shade tree that's actually trimmed up properly as opposed to a bushy. We're getting into smack, but I don't hear the term grasses and that sort of thing. So there's all kinds of opportunities for low, you know, out of the way of guy wires, to soften this thing up and make it look right.
Any other questions that?
I'd just like to make the point. I am a landscape architect, so I am familiar with trees and shrubs and whatnot, and I think they could make this work. Primarily, when I've worked with KG&E in the past, they want to limit any large shade trees underneath the high lines, and I can see that. But there's quite a bit of area there where there won't be high lines, so I think they can make it work.
Even with the requirement of shade trees, use
I don't know where all their high lines are, but it seems to me there's enough room in there where they can, if that's a problem, like they said, you can substitute the shrubs and the smaller trees if you need to. But I'm pretty sure they can make a plan work.
Mr. Warren.
And especially on the east side, I don't know if there are any high lines coming in from the east side. So
said 2, I think.
Under the circumstances, it looks like we need to get somebody that knows about it. So my opinion would basically be, like Chuck, I don't know that much about shrubs and stuff, but a landscape architect could give us a design to be approved by the staff based upon the regulations of the code.
Well, they have to submit one.
That's what I'm saying. They would have, Evergy would have to hire somebody
to
submit one to get this approval. My only concern is Chuck brought it up earlier about you get too much because it's on a major intersection. Make sure you don't get a blind spot in there. That's my concern.
Any other questions of the agent?
One last comment, Mr. Chairman. just want to make sure that we're able to figure out with staff or from your action what our design is going to be. We're allowed to substitute shrubs and ornamentals for the required shade trees. If I can't get that to work with the power lines that are going to be in there, how am I going to be evaluated on my plan?
I think we need to give you some clear direction. Thank you.
That would be appreciated.
No other questions? Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else in the chamber want to hear this or talk on this item? Anybody else want to discuss this item? How about anybody virtual? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to commission.
Scott might have a question.
Oh, Scott, you got something?
I did want to provide some feedback about staff working with the applicant, that if they do submit landscape plans for approval, there is a little bit of discretion in terms of what they can submit that would meet the needs, the requirements, but also staff would have the ability to fine-tune it with an adjustment to the staff level as opposed to a complete variance. So there is some flexibility on both sides, from the applicant side and from the staff reviewing it as well.
Okay, bring it back to commission. What's the pleasure of the board?
How do we make a motion that does that? I think we're in agreement that we want the applicant and staff to come to an agreement following the ordinance as close as we can without causing problems. How do we form a motion that does that?
I don't know of any other way than simply denying the variance at this stage and then leaving it to staff once the plans are done to evaluate the plan. Does that seem reasonable?
Fine, yeah.
So I would move that we deny the variance.
I'll second.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Mr. Warren. I mean, I want to deny the variance, but I feel like we should give some guidance to Evergy on design. And is there a way that we can add some language to just the motion for denial? I mean, I was thinking that we could, instead of having shade trees, we have ornamental trees, or we have bushes, or we just have no shade trees in the areas that are going to have overhead lines.
Mr. Green,
I mean, I don't know.
There's already a fair amount of flexibility built into the landscape ordinance.
Okay.
And I think, given the frontages we're talking about, the length of the frontage, I don't know that we can get that detailed. I think there's columnar trees, tall, narrow ones. There's other solutions they can come up with. I think, given the flexibility in the ordinance and the extra flexibility of staff being allowed to tweak it if they need to for safety's sake, I think that's enough.
Okay. I do too. You're the landscape architect.
No, he is. I just
I
work
agree
for
with
one.
what you said. I think they can make it work with the staff. I don't see any problem with them making it work with the staff. I don't think we need to get involved at all.
Okay. Call the question then.
So we got a motion to deny. Second. Motion by Ms. Foster, second by Mr. Nix.
Ms. Miles or Mr. Nix? Who seconded
Mr.
it?
Nix.
I think.
I guess Cindy also seconded, so. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
Nay.
Mr. Dool opposed it. Okay, next item is BZA 2021-00070, front yard setback for a carport, 1410 East Gilbert.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kathy Morgan for the planning staff. I want to go through the slides before I tell you the findings or the evaluation of the planning staff regarding this request. As you can see, this is a residential area. This lot is narrow and long, and if you look up here off Indiana, there is access to the rear of this lot. Next, please. Okay, so you can see up at the top of your screen where the access is. They do have a gate across there, a hurricane fence, chain link fence, and then this open area behind the main structure, which is at the south end of the lot. Next. This is our future growth map that shows that it's appropriate for residential development, and carports are not unusual for this board to consider. Next. Okay, this is an updated site plan because when we go through the pictures showing what is currently existing, it does not match this site plan. And it's a little bit difficult to see on the screen, but there's a 15 by 15 foot box right there where the main entrance to the house would be. So the request is to reduce or vary that front setback to allow this 15 by 15 carport, and it would reduce the front setback down to 1 foot, from 20 feet to 1 foot. Next. Okay, so this is the house. As you can see, there's already a wooden fence that's built right on the sidewalk at the back edge of the sidewalk. Next. This is looking northeast across where they've already poured the concrete. This was a case where the applicant had to ask for permission or forgiveness and then ask for permission. So in discussion with the applicant, they would, if the variance were granted, they would make the change to just a 15 by 15 foot area for the carport. Next. This is looking down the street or west from the property site. And as you can see, there's already a house on this corner that has the same kind of situation, and in staff checking it to see if this had been permitted or anything like that, it has not. This was built over a weekend, and so they did not bother to apply for any permits. Next. And this is looking west at the site. You can see this chain link fence here. That's at the property line. You can see where the fence, the wooden privacy fence, is right at the back side of the sidewalk. The structure, roof structure, is shown to be attached to the main building. And so the roof would extend with that slope that would then drain right onto the sidewalk. Next. This is the north end of the lot of which I was speaking. This is a drive that's coming south off that street right there, and the gate. So they have access to the rear of the house where a structure, and there is a door back there, so a carport could be easily put on the rear of the structure. Next. These are the houses just across the street looking southwest. This is a mature neighborhood, and so we do have a lot of houses that were built in that area from 1909, I think, to when I checked, to the late 20s, so it is a mature neighborhood. Most of the houses or properties in that area are single-family residential. Next, go back, please, to the site plan. Go back a couple. I want there, that's what I want. So in staff's evaluation of meeting the 5 criteria for a variance is that the uniqueness is not met because there is available access to the rear of the property, and a carport could be put on the north side of the main structure. The adjacent property finds that staff evaluation finds that the carport along the front property line is not in character with the properties to the east and the neighborhood in general. The applicant did not provide a site plan indicating the location of easements for gas and electric. I believe that the electric company or the gas company was notified because the gas line does come in from the front and the existing concrete pad goes over that gas line. The hardship, staff evaluated it and finds that the property owner created their own hardship. And also with public interest, this will adversely affect the neighborhood. That's a walkable neighborhood. This creates some impediments to retaining that walkability. As again, staff finds the spirit and intent of the Unified Zoning Code when considering all the factors of the request, that this application does not meet the spirit and intent of the Unified Zoning Code. The board can find, if the board should choose to make different findings, the staff has provided alternative findings that, one, the front yard setback reduction only apply to the carport as shown in the site plan, that a survey drawing with a scaled site plan with all easements for utilities and the structure shall be submitted by the applicant before the variance is considered to be final, and that the applicant shall obtain the proper building permits and inspections, and the modifications must comply with all state, county, and any other applicable standards. And I will answer any questions.
Any questions?
I got a question.
Kathy, if we were to deny this request, obviously the work that's been done on the carport would have to come down. What's the status on the fence? Is that in violation?
Is
JR, could you help me? It's my understanding that the fence could be built on the property line.
I don't think a solid fence is permitted on the front.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. J.R. Cox, Metropolitan Planning. A fence could be built on the property line. There are, in our current code, there are some distances. A fence has to remain back from a driveway. I do not know, I don't remember if this one meets that, but it is existing, so essentially it'd be non-conforming. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
If they put this thing up overnight, would we be sitting here having this discussion?
If I'm following the question, it's possible if someone complained about it that we still could, sure.
But nobody complained about the neighbors. Is that what we're saying?
I'd have to say apparently not.
So they're okay, but these people are not? So we understand?
Well, from the appearances, it would also be in violation as well of a different setback probably.
Yeah, there was a complaint.
On this one? Mm-hmm. So apparently there was a complaint. Someone did make a complaint about this one, but apparently not the adjacent one.
Any other questions of staff? Ms. Foster?
Kathy, it looks to me like this driveway to the west side of the house goes to the back or even a little past the back of the house. Is that correct? Is that an accessible driveway?
Can you go forward to the photo that shows that? There you go. See, they have that little bump out there that makes it too narrow for them to access the back from the front of the driveway or from the street.
Is that a doorway in that little bump out? An access into the house from the back of that driveway?
You know, it appears to be, but honestly, I can't remember.
Is that
Maybe
part
the
of the house, or is that a little shed back there?
Is that the shed set back, and it looks on the aerial like there's space between that?
Yes, it is a shed.
So that if they pulled to the end of this driveway, they would have access to the back of their house pretty straightforward.
Best to ask the applicant.
Yeah.
What's there? Any other questions, staff? Seeing none, thank you. Applicant or agent? Applicant or agent?
Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at the list of folks who are online, and I do not see Jose Barbara, the owner, online either.
He's in the audience.
Oh, please come forward and give your name and address, please. You have 10 minutes.
Hello, my name is Jose Barba, and I'm the owner of the 1410 East Giver with my mother. Is here too. And we try to do only the carport close to the front door because she's no way to walk real well now. She have a seizure in the back. And she tried to start building the carport in the front. Well, I get notification from the city with the she don't have the permit, so I stopped my mother to do it. And I tried to do it the right way. That's why I only wanted the carport 15 by 15 so she can walk away from the house so she can buy she's groceries and all the stuff she needed. And honestly, and the side, east side of the house, there's no way we can put it. Same to the west side. And I know in the north side is a long way, and it costs a lot of money to us to build it. So the only option we have is only in the front and be less expensive. So that's only my required, to put something in the front you can be able to do your stuff. And that's all I can say,
Ms. Foss?
On the back corner of the house in this picture, is there space between the back corner of the house and the shed so someone can walk through to the back door?
It is only like 6 foot, 6 to 8 foot only. And there's only that driveway is go to the shake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the shed is set back from the house, so there's space between the house and the shed? To walk through, not to drive through, but you could walk from the back end of the driveway.
Yeah, you can walk
to your back door. Is there some reason that was not a satisfactory solution?
No, because, well, honestly, it is more a space to put concrete. It's a little more expensive, and so that we don't think about it costs a lot of more money to do that one than we don't have it, honestly, to put in that side. And also the car don't fit from there. But
you could drive on the driveway to the shed, just short
Oh,
of the
no,
shed?
you can. I know enough space to drive one vehicle in there.
Not into the shed, but to the back corner of the house. The driveway already goes to the back corner of the house. Could you not-
Honestly,
Just
It's-
6 feet. You said 6
yeah,
feet.
it's
6 feet.
too small.
But that's enough room to put a sidewalk to your back door, which would be less concrete than the 15 by 15 foot pad you put in front. Would it not?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? The applicant? Seeing none, thank you. Anybody else want to speak on this item? Please come forward and give us your name. You got 3 minutes.
My name's John Beimar. I live at 1404 East Gilbert. I've been there since 75. That was a vacant lot. Connie owned it. Diane bought it. They tore the house down and put that module home in there. Diane had a carport there on the west side of that house. When she moved, she took the carport with her. So you can drive all the way through there. I'm the one that helped Connie and them take care of that lot. Who's going to clean the sidewalk when that snow comes off that carport? Like the one on the west side, it's 4 foot, 12 foot long. It fills up with snow. He doesn't shovel the snow. 2 people in the neighborhood shovels. I do and Janine. Nobody else in the neighborhood will shovel snow off those sidewalks. I don't think a carport should be in front of the house. If there was a carport there before, put it back on that side. They don't need to be there. Thank you.
Any questions, Speaker?
Yes. Come back, please.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I just want to clarify. There used to be a carport at the end of the existing driveway?
Actually, that carport was the full length of that house. It was a metal one. Okay. Diane used to pull her truck up there. She pulled her Volkswagen in there. There was a door on the west side of the house. The door was removed.
Okay, but there's still a door on the north side of the house? Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else here want to speak on this item? Does anybody virtual want to speak on this item? Applicant's got 2 minutes of rebuttal if you want to have anything else to say. Emotion, he says he doesn't, so I'll bring it back to commission. What's the pleasure of the board? I guess I got a question of staff. I know we got into a deal some time ago about a carport on the side of a house and where the water was dumping between the 2 houses, and that became a big issue. Of course, I don't know if this thing is, if you got a foot or had a little bit more than that, I guess that snow could fall behind the fence and be on the carport. But anyway. Mr. Warren.
Difficult issue because, you know, you got folks with limited means and they've already gone part way into it, but this is not the way that areas need to be developed. You don't want to see carports on, you know, when you got small yards to begin with and to cover that up with a carport coming out the front. I move to deny.
Second.
Second.
I got a motion to deny by Mr. Warren, second by Ms. Foster. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry.
My apologies, sir. Staff have alerted me to the fact that we probably, if you could, as part of that motion, I'm wondering if the motion makers would be okay to find that the 5 factors are not found. That does not meet the 5 criteria. We just need that specifically.
I'll incorporate that in as a part of my motion.
I'm fine with that as well.
Question on that. One of the 5 was they would access from the backside down an alley. That's over 200 feet from that gate. Probably just looking at the plat. To me, that's not a reasonable entrance back to the back for access to that.
I think the same factor is addressed, though, by the fact that there was an existing carport in the back at the end of the existing driveway, so they do still have an other alternative besides putting it in the front.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not against the motion. All I'm saying is to use, one of the 5 was the fact they did have access from the alley on the back side. If you look at the plat, it's probably 200 to 250 feet from that gate, that is, back to the house.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I'm just saying that factor is also addressed by another alternative in the backyard.
And of course, I'm going to say I don't know if the carport that was there previously was permitted or legal or whatever. Because like I say, we had a case here a while back where we had one on the end of a house and the neighbors opposed it.
And what I would, sorry, sir, but one quick comment is that I believe this is a good discussion because in order to provide the variance, my understanding, you have to find that all 5 do exist. So it is possible for, one of the factors to exist, but others not to. The other thing too is that I believe that staff will work with the applicant on this because there are options coming in from the back, but they don't necessarily have to be paved because it appears that that alleyway or street that's there is not paved, plus this is residential, so they have the option of using different materials other than pavement to access the rear of the house. So I would direct staff to work with the applicant to make sure that they understand what options are available.
Perfect. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion is to deny. And that leaves us to the end of the BZA, right? So we will go back to the Planning Commission. And I believe the first item is going to be 3.1, vacation 2021 00050.
Bill Longnecker, excuse me, Bill Longnecker, Senior Planner, Current Plans. The case you have is vacation case 2001-00050, a request to vacate the platted 35-foot side yard setback running parallel to the east lot line of Lot 1, the Sander addition. And then we also have a platted 8-foot utility easement that is running parallel to the south property line of that subject property. This case was heard by the subdivision committee last week, and the motion was to approve the application. However, there was some consideration in regards to whether there were utilities located in that platted 8-foot utility easement. And the applicant was directed by the subdivision committee to resolve that question prior to the planning commission meeting. That issue has been resolved. There are no utilities in that platted 8-foot utility easement. Evergy has agreed that the applicant's survey of that property has shown no utilities in that easement, and I believe that is what the direction the Planning Commission was looking for from the subdivision. So we're looking to approve this vacation request to vacate that platted 35-foot setback, which was not an issue at subdivision, and to approve the vacation of that platted 8-foot utility easement with the understanding is that there's been no utilities found in that easement. I will stand for question.
Any questions? Bill? It's not. Thank you, Bill. Applicant or agent? He indicates he doesn't want to speak. Is there anybody else that want to speak on this item? Here in the chamber? Is there anybody virtual? Seeing that, I'll bring it back to the commission.
I move for approval. Second.
Mr. Hartman moves to approve it, second by Ms. Foster.
No, it was Mr.
Oh, I'm
Nix.
sorry. You gotta speak up. I can't hardly hear you down.
Speak up, Mr.
Second.
Nix.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anybody opposed? That carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. I believe the next one is 4.3, conditional use 2021-00056.
Kathy Morgan for the Planning Department. This case, if you were able to look at the background on this case, the Planning Commission heard this case beginning of last year, and it was the conditional use for the expanded operation of the kennel boarding training facility was approved, and they were supposed to have moved into a new facility on 247th Street. And so the conditional use was to sunset on December 31st of 2021. That has not happened. The applicant came back. There was no provision to allow for an extension of that time, that if they had to do something else, then they had to come back through a full conditional use process. They are not asking for any changes to what was approved in the conditional use of 2020-10. They want the same expanded operation. What is changing is they are requesting that the time be extended to 15 months to March of 2022 to get the new facility built and ready for to occupy. So let's see. Staff is recommending that the Kennel Breeding Training Center be approved. If you look under recommendation number 2, that's a new condition. And then under number 13, that's a new condition because of the date change. Will you go through the slides, please, Paul? So this is a 4.5, a little over 4.5 acre tract. The county regulations require that they have at least 5 acres for a dog kennel, and so that's one of the reasons for the conditional use. The next one, please. It's out in the county, so it needs to follow the rural guidelines and fringe development of the comprehensive plan. Next, please. This is their site plan. This is the current site plan. You see the main structure here. They do have a drive and parking in front of the office area. This is an outdoor run. These are kennels. This is another exercise area, and this is an area where the breeding animals are kept. So there's no expansion of what this existing footprint is. Next, please. So this is looking at the back of the facility. This is another small outdoor run. This is the run for the breeding dogs. Next. And here you can see the main outdoor exercise area, and you can see covered kennels along this side of the building. Next. This is the front of the building looking east. That's the main entrance into the business, and then the larger building has indoor kennels and doggy daycare. They provide shampooing, styling salon for the dogs. Next. And this is looking back toward the southeast corner of the property. They have an on-site lagoon in this area. They have to maintain the surfaces to keep them clean, sanitary, and that's taken care of by licensing requirements. Next. Okay, this is looking from the rear of that outdoor run toward northwest toward the rear of the existing house. Next. And this is looking west to the property, residential property, and as you can see, they were required to have trees planted along this. They're still in the process of meeting that landscaping requirement along the west side of the property. Next. This is looking north from the corner of the office building, the facility, the drive entrance onto 29th Street, West 29th Street, and then there's a farmland on the north that's used for agriculture. Next. Okay, go back to the site plan if you would. So I believe in your packet, let's see, you have the site plan, and the applicant is here. I will answer any questions, but he will be better able to answer specific questions on this.
Any questions of Kathy?
I've got one.
Hartman?
So this layout, the site plan that you see here is the one, I mean, it's exactly the way it was approved?
No, this is updated because it has some additional landscaping. I don't believe that this outdoor run for the breeding dogs was there when it was approved last year. I'm not certain though.
But basically he's running the operation just like they said they were going to. They just need more time to develop the other site.
Exactly.
So they need an extension of what they've got.
Yes.
With 2 new conditions.
Yeah, with the conditions that were noted in the staff recommendation.
Yeah, 13 and whatever the other one
Yeah.
was. 2.
Any other questions of Kathy?
Yeah, the extension is going to be to March 31st of 2023.
3, right.
23?
See, I heard.
Yeah, 23.
You're right.
I do have a question.
Yeah, okay.
I thought you said 2022. No, it's just,
That's under item 13.
Staff report says 23.
okay.
Yeah, it says 23. It's for 15 months beginning upon approval of this conditional use, should the Planning Commission determine that.
And thank you for clarifying that, because I thought that's just some kind of an arbitrary date out there, and it was.
Yeah, that was based on what the applicant requested.
15 months, yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions of Kathy? Seeing none, thank you.
Yes. I do.
You'll have to wait till we have the applicant, and then you'll have your time, ma'am. Thanks, Kathy. Applicant or agent?
Sorry
sorry this has taken so long. We have been working very hard to get it done.
Give us your name and address, please.
Hank Cocking at 22215 West 29th Street North.
Thank you.
We've got our plans through SBT. They cost us $56,000. And we got our approval through the county. They were sent to the county to be reviewed. That cost us $3,000. So we're working diligently to try to get this done. We just didn't realize how long it was going to take. The other facility, the area that we have, has already got a conditional use permit, and we do want to get out of there. And we are trying to. With COVID and all this other stuff that hit, it's just been taken. I didn't realize how much planning it was going to take to come up with this. And then I didn't realize all the steps that we had to take, I guess, and I didn't realize it was going to take so long. And I apologize that we have to ask for more time, but this is it. We're not asking for any more after this. And we're asking for 15 months just because if we can get out of there sooner, we want to get out of there sooner. The only, and just kind of a little bit about, if we get shut down, and I know it's my fault, it falls back on me if it does happen, but I do have 10 employees, and we are up to $175,000 in payroll that we've paid or more this year. And when we service people out of California, Arkansas, Colorado, Nebraska, Missouri, and Oklahoma. So we have people come in from all over from these states to train dogs because we got a really good reputation. We have really good clients. I understand, and I feel for my neighbors. I talked to all the neighbors. I reached out to all the neighbors, all of them, but one answered, which, I know people are busy. I can't, she probably was busy, couldn't get back with me, but I was just trying to get their feel on what they thought and if it would be okay. And so that's kind of where we're at. And so we're trying to get out of there. We've spent a considerable amount of money to get out of there. It's just taken us a lot. This is the first time I've designed or built something that's going to be this big. I mean, it's going to be over a $900,000 facility. So, I mean, it's going to bring revenue for the county, for the city, for people that come in from out of state and employees. So, I mean, and, if it doesn't get approved and we have to appeal it, if there's a way we can just wait, not shut us down until we get to the appeal or something like that. But every other neighbor I've talked to was okay with it. I just don't know about the one neighbor. So.
Are you in agreement with the 2 additional requirements that was on the?
Do what now?
Are you in agreement with the other 2
yes.
items?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with moving out of there. I'm in agreement. Yeah, we will be out of there. I've already got a builder. I've got Coonrod bidding it, and I got Jared at Construction bidding it right now. So it's everything's ready. All I got to do is get the numbers back, and when he's ready to go, we're ready to go. We're ready to build. We got the NOI, the water situation running through there. We've done everything. It's just taken me so longer than I anticipated, and I apologize to my neighbors. I know that, we're trying to get out of there, but that's kind of where we're at. And then if you do shut us down, I do have just a little rebuttal, but.
Yeah, Mr. Cocking, what are your plans for the building once you have moved out?
So when it's over with, then there's only 12 dogs can be there. And they'll be our breeding dogs.
You'll be back to what the
original was.
Yeah, the zoning requirement is for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions, the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
The breeding run on the
other side
house, was that added?
It was there the last meeting.
It was there, okay. I just want to confirm.
Mr. Chairman, just to repeat what that question was, Commissioner Fox had asked about the run and which side it was on.
I wanted to confirm if it was present when we approved the conditional use originally or if that's been added since.
Oh, and the question was to confirm whether or not the run was there when it was when the original conditional use was. And the applicant has indicated that yes, it was there as part of the application for the prior conditional use.
Anybody in the chamber want to speak on this item? I know there's somebody virtual.
Yes, I do.
Give us your name and address, please.
Nancy Hill, 22321 West 29th Street North. Andale. I'm the neighbor to the west.
You've got 3 minutes.
My question, okay, I'm sorry. My question is when it first went in the first time, they were given 7 years to put our cedar trees in, and they put the cedar trees in right before they expanded the dog business. And then we gave them 15 months, and now they're just now worried about another expansion. The false promises continue to happen. I know the neighbor to the east, when they bought their house, which now I think has already been 2 years ago, when they bought it, they were told that the dog business was going to be gone in 6 months. And since then, they've already put in a pool and have expanded as well into their living, and the dog business is still there. My only concern as a neighbor who always gets all the turnarounds plus everything else that happens in my yard, I'm just concerned that this 15 months is going to go to another 15 months, to another 15 months, to another 15 months. You know, we've had promises so many times, and there's no ground broke yet on Andale Road. That's my concern. I'm not against them losing their business or anything like that. I know they've worked very hard to build their business, and I'm very proud of them with their business. But as a neighbor, I continue to see the false promises.
Anything else?
That's it that I can think of right now.
All right, thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Any questions of the speaker? Thank you, ma'am. Is there anybody else virtual want to speak on this item? The applicant, you have 2 minutes to rebuttal, if you choose so. You need to speak in the mic.
I guess if it's not approved, I guess I would have a couple of questions, and that's it.
Okay. I'll bring it back to commission with pleasure of the board.
I move that we approve per staff comment, and at the end of that 15-month period, that's the end of the extensions that we'll have.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Green, second by Ms. Foster. I guess I'm going to support the motion.
Oh, the attorney may have a problem with it.
Okay.
Well, it might be a clarification thing, Commissioner Green. Justin Wagner, Assistant County Counselor. I think that as individual commissioners, you could have in mind whether you think additional extensions could be appropriate or not be appropriate. I don't think you can bind your future selves 15 months down the road. That doesn't mean, again, that you may not think this is appropriate. You could even make comments in the record if you think that's appropriate in your individual capacities, but I don't think as a planning commission you can prohibit them from potentially seeking and obtaining any additional extensions. I understand the concern that the neighbors expressed on this, but I don't think you could do that with any action that you would take today. But let me know if you have any questions on that.
Well, then I'll withdraw the last sentence of my motion. I move that we approve per staff comment, period.
And I agree.
I'm just going to say I'm going to support it because I'm in the construction business, and right now if we order a new building, back in the day we could get one in 12 weeks. Now it's 48 weeks. So you think 15 months is a long time? It isn't. And the whole industry is changing, and it's sad, but that's what we're dealing with. So I'm going to support the motion. And I just want everybody to know why it may take 15 months to do it. Hey, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? It's unanimous. Next item is CUP 2021-00062, deferred from 12/2. And this did go in front of the board, and it was approved unanimously. 6-0.
Yes, the District Advisory Board, 4. Will you run through the maps, please, Paul. The
Kathy.
zone, I'm sorry.
You take that.
Oh, sorry. The zoning, this is a CUP. It was where Tight Ends was approved, and now it's the Clutch House. The property has changed ownership. As you can see by the zoning, you have the Masonic home across the street with quite a bit of space back from the Seneca, and then the MF 29 on the south side of that is, at this point, is vacant land. It's not developed. East of the site is single-family residential and two-family, and north of the site is limited commercial. It has indoor storage and warehousing. And as part of the original CUP, there was fencing, screening required along that east property line, and then landscaping along University and Seneca. Go to the next slide, please. And here you can see the aerial. The music and entertainment facility will be located only in this building. The north building has other retail spaces and has some vacant spaces that they're hoping to fill. There is a solid fence along, as I said, along the east property line next. And although this, our future growth map shows this as residential, that is, that location at Kellogg and South Seneca is a gateway into the Delano neighborhood, and with the change that was approved, the CUP that approved the limited commercial activity there, that's where we're trying to focus the commercial development next. This was the community unit plan that was approved. It's all one parcel. I just wanted to bring that back up for to refresh your recall of that original CUP application. Next. So this is looking northeast at the two buildings from the corner of University and Seneca. Seneca is a boulevard from Kellogg north to McLean. So it has the divider, it has trees in the median in most places. Sometimes they have right and left turn lanes to get across the street, but it is designated as a boulevard. Next. Here's a better picture of the corner of the Clutch House. You can see along here that they do have a separation wall. There are sidewalks in the front of the business and as it runs along West University. Next. This is looking south along Seneca Street. To the right of your picture here is the land property of the Masonic home. Next. And this is looking back southeast at the two buildings, and here you can see the lighting standards and the screening, the trees, that type of thing that were required by the CUP. Next. Okay, go back. I thought I had a picture of the fence in there. Go back. I guess I didn't. The fence is it was specifically allowed for the materials that it had. It's horizontal boards on the bottom, and on the top it's a 6-foot fence, and probably 2 feet on the top is some kind of metal horizontal panel. So that was approved in the CUP, original CUP document. As I said, we did meet with District Advisory Board 4. There were members of the public there, that there's a lot of discussion, and the DAB did decide to approve unanimously per staff comment to approve the entertainment and music to be within the building where the Clutch House is. And no outdoor music or events, because they do have a patio on the north side of that building, and I think they've had DJs out there and whatever, and so that is not allowed.
Any questions? Warren?
Part of the discussion we had last time on this was the applicant agreed to provide security. Was that addressed in the DAB meeting?
Yes, they did discuss that, and the applicant is working out the conditions for that when they have events at the business, that they will provide some kind of security. I think the applicant is here and he can answer that better.
Any other questions? Mr. Hartman?
Yeah, I think the first time we heard it, there was a gentleman on the east side of the fence there was complaining about the light spillage into his yard.
Yes.
Now, don't these light fixtures have shields on them to prohibit that?
Yes, they are available, and the CUP does require that the light be directed down to the parking lot.
Are they not working, or he just thinks it's brighter than it should be?
They probably don't have the right kind of shield on the fixture that blocks that light downward along that.
They should be able to correct that, don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Just to refresh my memory, we're hearing this case again because we deferred it so the DAB could hear. Was that the reason?
That's my understanding, yes. That was the only reason it was deferred.
Any other questions? Thank you, Kathy. Applicant or agent?
Hello, my name is Emmanuel Kalori. The business address is 524 South Seneca, 67213. I do agree with the staff recommendation as they stated, and I was also asked to appear at the DAB, which I presented our situation. Although there was no problem with music or entertainment within the building, although the neighbors expressed concern about noise in the parking lot, and there was an issue with lighting in the parking lot. And also another neighbor said there was a couple of boards need to be repaired on the fence in the east of our building. And we also approached the neighbors, and we told them that we can get those boards repaired, and also work with noise levels where on an event day we could provide some security late at night. Therefore, there are no noises, or at least mitigate the noises for the neighbors. And one of the neighbors is very cooperative, and he said he has no problem with music or entertainment inside, except there was one employee that he had those boombox cars running by parking lot, and that employee is no longer with us, by the way. So, from time to time, we do have customers drive through the parking lot, and sometimes we don't have no control on those cars. But especially on a busy night, we are trying to have some security about 3 to 4 hours late at night. That way it's not going to bother the neighbors.
What about the lighting, parking lot lighting?
Pardon me?
What about the parking lot lighting that Griffin?
Parking lot lights are in compliance with the architectural designs. Although we are trying to put some blockers on the house northeast side where it doesn't shine on his house. Although I have pictures I can show you, it's really not really shining on the house. Although we are trying to take the measure to put a blocker on the east side of the house.
Okay. Any questions to the applicant? Mr. Warren.
Talk to me about the security. I mean, there was concern of the neighbors that when you're running as late as you are, that things go on in the parking lot and there's nobody there to correct that. How are you dealing with? What's your plan for that?
You need to have the parking lights on, and especially at night. And we have a problem with the timer, and I'm trying to find that person who fixed it, but they were on. I mean, during the day, it's not going to bother anybody. It's a more electric bill for me, but at night, we are trying to fix the problem on the northeast corner neighbor.
Well, specifically, there was concern about cars that were backing up in the parking lot next to these houses, and then revving their engines for fairly significant periods of time. It's very loud. We can obviously the neighbors can call the police, but by the time that comes around, the impression that I got was that you were going to have security to help deal with that on a fairly quick basis. Is that what have you agreed to on that?
Yeah, in terms of working with the noise levels, is that what you're referring to, right, on the parking lot?
Right.
Okay. The neighbor to the northeast corner expressed that concern, and we are, like I mentioned, trying to hire security where they monitor, and even our staff is going to check time to time. We are creating a log, every hour, and they, walk through the parking lot just to make sure that, everything is okay.
While you're still up here, I want to ask Kathy, did you have an aerial that I can see?
Yeah, Paul, can you go back to the aerial?
Pardon me? Yeah, so there we go.
Right.
It appears there's two entrances on Seneca, and then there's one that goes out on the north.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And one on the south.
Yes.
I guess I'm curious if those could be gated with just a pole, the one that goes out the north and south, so it forces everybody to either come in and go out the drives on Seneca. Maybe that would eliminate some people after hours parking in the back. And I don't know from traffic or whoever if that's.
Yep, traffic and fire
Yes.
department access. I don't know I don't have a map that shows where the water hydrants are located.
And the fire department could take and either cut the padlock or
right.
have a key.
Right.
If I may, sir, I think that would take a little bit more discussion than maybe we've got here, but we certainly would be willing to reach out to other departments and get some input and feedback on that.
Thank you. Is there any other questions of the applicant? Ms. Foster?
I would just comment that what we're being asked here is whether they can have live entertainment inside the existing bar. Whether we approve or disapprove that is not going to necessarily affect any of these other problems with noise and light. I sympathize with the neighbors and I would like to see these problems solved, but I'm not sure we're the entity that ought to be trying to solve them in this instance with a conditional use discussion. or excuse me, a CUP discussion.
Any other questions? Is there anybody else in here would like to speak on this item? Anybody in the chamber want to speak on this item? Anybody virtual want to speak on this item? Anybody virtual? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to commission.
I would like to move that we approve per staff recommendations.
Second.
Got a motion to approve by Ms. Foster, second by Mr. Dool. Mr. Warren.
I'm going to be in opposition. I think that when we're doing a conditional use, the restrictions on the use have to do with, basically we're saying it's okay to do a neighborhood, do a nightclub, but if there's a neighborhood issue there, then we can put conditions on it. So I would, without the condition of security, I can't support it.
Is that a substitute motion?
No, that's just, I'm going to vote against it.
I understand. I would point out this is an amendment to a CUP, not a conditional use, but for whatever that's worth.
And I'm in agreement with Mr. Warren.
Any other discussion? Motion's approved for staff comment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Who's opposed?
Aye.
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 I guess we need to do a roll call.
Yes, sir. So the motion is to approve per staff comments. Bill Johnson?
No.
Fox? No. That's a no. McKay? No. Gross is not here. Green?
Aye.
Dool?
Aye.
Blick? Not here. Nix?
Aye.
Foster?
Aye.
Warren?
No.
Joe Johnson? Okay, he left. Miles?
No.
Hartman?
Aye.
Florence? Not here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opposed.
Motion fails.
Motion fails.
Are we going to have another motion?
I have a question, staff. It seems that security is the thing that we're talking about more than anything. Is it possible that we can add some kind of verbiage to the motion about security, some kind of requirements of the owner? I think I ask Jeff.
We will defer to legal on that one.
Yeah, he's coming.
Jeff Van Zant, City Assistant Attorney. You could do an alternative motion at this point. If not, the motion fails. So that's all you can do by adding additional conditions to it.
Mr. Warren?
Okay, Jeff?
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to condition that the applicant provide security on evenings, that they have live entertainment running past 11 p.m. at night.
Do I have a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? Let's do a roll call again.
Yes, sir.
Please.
Just taking quick notes. Okay. So here's what I have as the motion. The motion is to approve, subject to staff recommendations, and also subject to an additional condition. The applicant provides security when live entertainment goes past 11 p.m.
Until what time?
Until closing.
So whenever it goes past 11.
They can go to 2. They can go to 2. So if they're open till 2, they provide security till 2.
So then the security will kick them out of the parking lot at the time they close, what you're saying? I've been in the restaurant and bar business for 20 years. Just good luck, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Better than nothing.
Okay. Well, with that, go through the roll call?
Yep.
Okay. Bill Johnson?
Yes.
Fox? Yes. Yes. McKay?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Dool?
Yes.
Blick is not here. Nix?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
Joe Johnson is not here. Miles?
No.
Hartman?
Yes.
And Florence is not here. 9-1. Motion
That carries
passed.
9-1, doesn't it?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yes. Next item. Zoning case 2021-00054, SF single family to TF3 at MacArthur and South Hoover.
Kathy Morgan for the Planning Department. As you can see by the zoning map, this is Blue Lake addition that was approved, and so right now the area outlined in black, there's 80 lots in there that they are requesting zone change to TF3. The purple, lavender, whatever color that is limited industrial. You can see that there are 6 lots in this area that are zoned SF5, and this area is developed with single-family residences. Most of them are mobile homes, manufactured homes. Next slide, please. And this is the SF5 to the east. There's a business home located down here in the southeast corner, and then there's a large lake. So the TF3 zoning wouldn't be abutting any developed area. Next. And this is located in an area for new residential. I will give you a brief background. This is right across the street from where a conditional use for a rock crushing operation was approved last year. That rock crushing, go back to the aerial, would you please? No, it's the rock crushing is down here in this area, but it's at the south end of that parcel. So most of this south of MacArthur is also industrial and developed with sales and construction services and things like that. Go back, please. Next. And so this is the Mitch did well.
The ditch. We all know what
ditch,
you mean.
the Mitch Mitchell floodway is just to the west of that. So there's right away for that. Go to the next slide, please. And this is looking east along MacArthur. I was standing over in front of where the conditional use for the property for the rock crushing. And so you can see MacArthur has a wide right-of-way and then the residential development along the north side of the street. And I think that's the last slide. Yeah, that's looking northwest toward the ditch. And so staff is recommending approval of the requested zone change with that it does meet the comprehensive plan, community investment plan, and it's appropriate for residential, And so, and it meets the, zoning uses and character of the neighborhood, the impact on the development in the community. These are duplexes. They will have on-site parking for the duplexes and not be on-street parking. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions?
And the agent is here.
Mr. Green?
The subdivision to the north, has that plat been approved?
Yes, it shows on the GIS official map.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that had, I knew that it had come before us, but I wasn't sure if it had been approved.
Philip can,
Phil
can answer that,
Okay.
that question, but I pulled it up off the zoning map.
Okay, well, the reason for the question was just to make sure that it has been approved so that this subdivision to the south here, the one that we're looking at, actually does have access into the subdivision to the north for access for that many units, livable units that are going to be
Right.
proposed.
There's not, this is still part of the same plat. It's just that they're requesting to rezone those front 80 lots
Okay.
to TF3. So it's all part of that Blue Lake addition.
Any other questions? Thank you, Kathy. Applicant or agent?
Afternoon, Phil Meyer with Boffman Company, agent for the applicant. So we're in agreement with staff comments as written. To answer or to update you on a couple things. One, we've been at this for probably about a year now. I think Commissioner Green remembers we had filed a preliminary plat on this property a year ago, and at the time, everything highlighted in red we were proposing on the plat to do as industrial. Hadn't filed the zone change yet, put that on the plat. We ran into a problem with both the fire department and the traffic engineer in doing that. So this overall subdivision of Blue Lake, which includes the area in red and the property to the north of that, was all platted back in 2004, I believe. It's been a slow-going development, but it is coming along. The developer has been working with the homeowners association, and the goal was to eliminate the housing that's shown in the red. That's why we were going to zone it industrial, and just keep the single family to the area to the north. When we got the requirement from both traffic and fire that we had to have a paved access down to MacArthur, you can't make that work with one large or four large industrial lots. I mean, the economics are not there to pave a half-mile street and get that done. So we've spent some time, we've been working with the HOA, came up with this plan that we would zone this property duplex down here. We'll remove that from the single-family HOA, have this development going. We've been working with fire and traffic on the access between the two subdivisions. We can discuss that with the plat. I don't want to really mix up the zoning issue, land use issue, and the plat issue, but I have got that worked out with those two, and with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, agent?
Thank you for clarifying that, because that's exactly what I was referring to, because I knew that there'd been some attempts at different iterations of what you were going to do in that area, and this makes sense.
And so that I clarify the planning commissioners, what you see on the screen today in red is the plat that is there today. That is platted single family today. We will be replatting the red and the very south end of Blue Lake for a duplex development.
And the connection
between the two that gets access to MacArthur.
Okay.
Any other questions?
And just one more. I assume that connection will have to be in place to be able to fully develop the area in red. with the number of duplexes that you want?
Yeah, we're still discussing with the fire department if we, right now, I've got to get a connection with, once we start off McCarthy, with any development, I got to get a connection down there. I'm trying to get one more phase in before we do that, but I don't know if we're going to make that or not.
Thank you, Phil. Is there anyone in the chamber want to speak on this item? Please come forward and give us your name and address, please.
Bill Hampel, 12129 West 14th Street here in Wichita, 67235. I'm the adjacent property owner of the property to the east. We've had that, part of that is farmland and about a 20-acre sandpit lake. We've had that property for about 25 years, and there's a chain link fence, about a 3-foot, maybe 3.5-foot, depending upon where you're at, with a couple of links of barbed wire on top of that surrounds the entire property line, and it's done its job for, I think that sandpit's been there for probably 50 years. I'm not sure how long, but well before we ever owned the property. The current plan calls for about 26 lots whose backyards would face that property line. And if duplexes are approved, now we're talking about 52. The property line is about 250 feet, or that east property line that both properties adjoin is about 250 feet from that lake, and the banks of the lake are steep. The water is deep. So I think there's some really concerns for safety of the people that live within that, those potentially 52 homes, and actually I guess it could be 160 when you look at the 60 homes that could be going into that development. I sent some photos. Do you have a photo of the fence that Yeah, I don't know if you can see that very well, but that's kind of a depiction of the fence that we have across there. Okay, thanks. And the chain link is about 3.5 feet high, and then you see the barbed wire. And that goes across the entire eastern property line of the subdivision. My concern is that without some sort of solid barrier and with that higher population density that we're going to have with a rezoning into duplexes, that's going to cause a lot of potential temptation for children. There's going to be probably, I'm sure, a lot of young families that move in there. For exploring, that property that we have there and the lake, there's going to be a temptation to fish, to explore, to
Mr. Hampel,
that type of thing.
Your time's up. Do you need another minute?
I would like another minute, yes.
Okay, you got one more minute.
Okay. I've talked to Mr. Steven, who's the developer, and I don't want to put words into his mouth, but he did say that he'd be open to some kind of a solid barrier fence. I'm thinking about a masonry fence of some sort, a wall that would prohibit the visibility, the opportunity for people to move, children to move from their backyards into our property. So I had a personal friend that drowned in a sandpit lake at one time, so I know that the temptation is there, and it could happen. And just for the sake of safety I have no problem with the rezoning that, but I do think that there should be a solid barrier fence there to prohibit access.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Hampel?
I've got one.
Mr. Hartman?
Does that fence that we're seeing there, does it also run along the north line of your property?
The north line, yes, it does. It completely
Goes all the way around
the perimeter, yes.
So, I mean, there are existing homes on the north side now, right? So you'd still have that problem.
Well, there's a street, actually, and they're single-family homes. So
Right.
there's a street in between.
But the temptation's still there. You can see the lake, I imagine.
Can.
Okay.
Any other questions? Speaker? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone virtual want to speak on this item? Seeing none, agent has 2 minutes to rebuttal.
Yes, I'd like to speak on this.
So, give us your name.
Yeah. My name is Gary Tillman. I live at 3218 South Blue Lake in the Blue Lake Edition. I'm on the HOA, but I'm not speaking on the HOA because we really never had time to have a meeting on it. But one thing, I've been talking to Chris Stevens, and I didn't hear the guy that was speaking about this. Chris Stevens said that we would have a berm that goes all the way across the back to divide between the houses and the duplexes, and then have an emergency gate. And I just want to make sure that's still what the plan is on that. And that's my only question right now.
Any questions, Mr. Tillman? Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else virtual want to speak on this item? Anybody else? Mr. Myers, you got 2 minutes to rebuttal.
Afternoon, Phil Meyer. So we are doing on residential to residential. So I'll answer two things. One, Mr. Jones just brought up from the Blue Lake, yes, Chris Stevens, the developer, in his negotiations with the HOA has been talking about creating a buffer between the single family and the duplex and the development that's there. And that was part of the negotiation to take the ground out of the HOA. So there is a conversation of doing that. The ironic part is, as I tell you, yeah, he's talking about doing that in his negotiations with the HOA. For Mr. Hampel's request, you know, I've got residential zoning and maybe duplex, but it's residential zoning. And we typically don't buffer between duplex and single family zoning, which his lake is single family. So I don't really want to start the precedence of having to build fences or walls to buffer residential from residential. We do have residential zoning to the north in our Blue Lake that's there now. And although it's zoned industrial, that loop street that sits south of the lake is really developed residentially. Sporadically, but developed residentially. So there's already some residences in the area. With that, so I would like it approved today without a requirement to buffer to the single family zoning to the east, which is the lake. And then to answer the homeowners association, the negotiations are still going on between the developer and the HOA, but yes, he's going to do a buffer with them.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Myers? Seeing none, bring it back to commission. Pleasure of the board.
I move for approval, subject to staff comments.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hartman, second by Mr. Green. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Carries unanimously. Next item, zoning case 2021-00055. Zoning change from SF20 to MF18. We got Kathy again.
You're so lucky. Okay, let's not get carried away here.
Yeah, please.
Okay, this is another one that is up by a limited conditional use or time-limited conditional use for rock crushing. As you can see by the aerial, this one piece of land right here is county, and it's surrounded by city of Wichita. So at some point, the property owner developer is going to request annexation of this land into the city of Wichita. Next, please. And there's a sand pit lake on the property, single-family residence here, office warehousing development to the north. This is the Crystal Lake subdivision, I believe. Why don't I have that? I don't have that staff report in my, okay. I think that's the Crystal Lake single-family residential subdivision. As you can see, it's
Crystal
buffered.
Gardens.
Crystal Gardens.
I'm sorry?
Crystal Gardens.
Crystal Gardens, thank you. So it's got another sand pit, I presume, lake that separates the property from their single-family residential. Across the street is a CUP that is zoned limited commercial, but this parcel happens to allow duplex zoning. Next, please. And as you can see, this is an area recommended by the future growth map and the comprehensive community investments plan for residential and employment mix. Next. This is looking from the street, Hunter's Street, across from the subject site. This is the house that currently exists at the northeast corner of that parcel. It is platted as one parcel. And then you can see here the limited commercial and development. The residence does have a brick pier and some kind of picket fence. Next, please. This is looking east. This is the pond, the sand pit. These are the residential structures that are east of the site. Next, please. This is looking southeast. There is a church in SF5 zoning district located there on the right of the photo. Next, please. And then this is again looking northeast. This is the location where the rock crushing is going on right now. So that can be developed into residential is what their intent is, I believe. Next, please. And this is looking south on 135th Street. Very wide right-of-way, sidewalks. So staff evaluates this, that the project does meet the community investments plan and would recommend approval to MF 18, and that because MF 18 has a limit of how many units can be built per acre, that's going to affect the number of units. They may be duplex units, they may be triplex, but that is going to affect the number of units that will be allowed, and also that it will have on-site parking. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions of Kathy?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hartman.
South of this property, does the church own that whole corner?
Yes.
Okay. And on this area you're looking at here, what is that on the southeast corner of that pond there? What are those squares? You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I see what you're talking about.
Is that like a spillway through there?
Yes, I think so, to connect those two.
Two ponds?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know that you can see those from the photos I took, Paul. Go forward go to the next one. Okay, so, no, go back. There you go. I think that is a spillway, Mr. Hartman.
Okay.
Any other questions of Kathy? Thank you, Kathy. Applicant or agent?
Afternoon, Phil Meyer with Boffman Company, agent for the applicant. We are requesting the MF18 zoning on this property. We're requesting that because it's a single platted lot today. The developer's intention is to do some duplexes on the northeast portion of this property. We're going to leave it as one single lot with a private road in there. We'll supply the necessary sewer and water to the site. His development intentions is to develop that more senior oriented, very similar to the existing single-family developments that is on the other side of the lake there. But if I zoned it TF3, I'd have to plat lots, and we just don't have the room to plat lots. There is some serious amount of drainage that goes through there. I'm aware of that. This case was pulled off today. Mr. Dave Hogan, who's sitting back there, had some questions about drainage. He may or may not come up here. I don't think he's coming up at this point, but I told him I'd be glad to meet with him and we'll explain what's going on and what we're doing. We're really not trying to impact or change the drainage pattern that is there today. And we're actually limited on what we can do on this site based on the drainage that's there. So I told him he's welcome to come up here and speak if he still had concerns, but we did offer to meet with him. Also here with me today, I should have mentioned earlier, Barry Davis is the right-hand man for the applicant and is familiar and will be doing the construction out here. So if you have any questions for him, he'd be welcome to answer also. But with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Phil, how do you propose to get access back there to where the planned development is?
We're going to use the drive that's there today. Of course, it'll have to be rebuilt, maybe move north a little bit, but we're going to come in at that north drive and go north and turn and go south just a little bit. It will be a private drive. It'll be like an apartment complex, but they're duplexes.
I mean, Mr. McKay?
Phil, of the 4.25, 4.5 acres, how size is that lake? How much of that lake takes up that 4.5?
I'm going to tell you 40% of that. Okay. 2 to 2.3 acres is that lake.
Any other questions? Mr. Hartman?
It looks like there's a lagoon on the site right now. So is the house using the lagoon? Or
the house is using the lagoon. We now have sanitary sewer to the north of this property that's serving the commercial business, the U-Store business up there. That is the applicant, the same owner.
Okay.
So we can eliminate that lagoon and bring public sewer in to serve this development. Along with, we have water in 135th. So we'll have public utilities to the development and we'll close the lagoon.
And do you know what those two squares are there by that spillway?
Those were weirs that were constructed by, so Vince Garcia Additions, the name of the plat. He's old fire chief, retired fire chief. Oh, I should word that. With my graying hair, but he constructed that years ago. I don't have the details on that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Phil. Anybody else in the chamber want to speak on this item? Anybody else want to speak on this item in the chamber? How about virtual? Anybody virtual want to speak on this item? Anybody virtual? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to commission.
I move we approve subject to staff comments.
Motion by Mr. McKay, second by Ms. Foster. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, that ends our planning commission meeting, but we got a non-public hearing item DR 2021-00007. And do we hear this, or do we just vote that it?
I'm going to turn to staff and see what our precedent has been in the past. Matt, you've presented these before.
I believe we have always heard these in the past, but I'm not sure that we have to.
Well, perhaps what we could do is an abbreviated presentation and just see if you have any questions.
Yeah, that'd work. Let's do it that way.
Okay, well, I have Mark Elder.
I'm sorry. You will be asked to approve a resolution, so I would recommend hearing the items.
Okay.
All right, well, Matt Williams with planning staff. Today we've got Mark Elder here with Economic Development to discuss the Phase 1 project plan for the ICT 21 redevelopment district, and then I'll be up afterwards to talk about the conformance with the comprehensive plan.
Good afternoon. This will be a brief presentation, but Mark Elder, I am with the city's economic development staff. This is a consideration of the Phase 1 project plan for the ICT 21 redevelopment district. It's up north by 21st Street and 135. This is the area here. The entire area in the black lines is the ICT 21 redevelopment district. The kind of whited out area on the right is 135 going that way. The gray line going through is 21st Street. So you can see there's property north of 21st and south of 21st Street. The project area is in those three sections labeled 1, 2, and 3, which is where the TIF project plan is being considered for the use of TIF financing to finance the infrastructure improvements within there. This area was formerly the El Paso refinery site. It's been demolished by, I think, for over about 15 years now, sitting and waiting for something to occur. The overall development will be about 1 million square feet of new construction. That'll include warehousing, manufacturing, industrial, and transit facilities, and some potential retail along 21st Street. The developer will also be participating in the Wichita's spec industrial warehouse program for some of the warehousing they'll be building within this development. Preliminary site plan that they have with the potential layout for that as they go through development and seek tenants. This may change, but this is the site plan as today. And the proposal for the use of tax increment financing for this project would include infrastructure within that site to serve the development, as well. That will be TIF bonded, as well as there would be some site preparation costs that could be reimbursed if there is additional TIF revenues above and beyond what's required to pay those TIF debt services, as well as traffic signalization along 21st Street as needed for if there's increased traffic, then engineering will review that and consider the additional traffic signals. And that's it for my part of the presentation. I would stand for any questions now or after Matt's presentation. So.
Mr. Green.
Yeah, how many TIF districts do we have in Wichita now? Do you have any, just roughly?
Roughly 12 to 13, I would say. I was just asked that earlier. I was in the middle of trying to calculate that, but I'd say it's about 12 to 13.
And are all those meeting the requirements of providing revenues to offset the costs of the public improvements?
Finance is the one that tracks a lot of that, but my understanding the last time they did their budgeting report, they're all projected to, they should be meeting those by the end of the expiration. And that has to do with a lot with the finance of, they may not generate as much at the beginning, but by the end they're usually exceeding what the projections are. So.
And then is it the responsibility of the landowners to pay those taxes?
Correct. I mean, to them, they pay them just as they would any other taxes, and then the county is the one that distributes those separately to the city.
Are they allowed to protest the assessed value of their properties?
That's a good question. So the way that works, I mean, there historically was an expectation that they would not. We now have in our agreements that the developers that control the property, there's some sort of guarantee, whether it's not to protest the property or that they would guarantee the TIF revenues to pay that. We have shortfall guarantees that are structured depending on the project to protect the city if something like that does occur.
And if they default on their,
That goes back to the guarantees that are in place to protect those bonds of the debts. So.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. We bring it back to the board.
Yep, I've got a few things.
Oh.
So today we're basically deciding whether this is in conformance with the comprehensive plan. It's the opinion of staff that this is in conformance with the comprehensive plan. The plan identifies the subject site as appropriate for industrial uses, commercial uses, and new employment, all of which are components of the ICT 21 district. The project is also infill within the established central area, a priority of our comprehensive plan. So staff recommends the Planning Commission pass a resolution finding the proposed Phase 1 project plan within the ICT 21 redevelopment district to be substantially consistent with the adopted Wichita-Sedgwick County master plan or comprehensive plan. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, staff? What's the pleasure?
Move we take the recommended action.
Second.
Got a motion approved by Mr. Green, second by Mr. Dool. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? With that, there's no other business, correct? Oh, there is.
There is one brief announcement, sir. I just wanted to let everyone know that yesterday the the county commission took action to approve a resolution that Shane Gross has resigned from the MAPC.
I hope that wasn't because we put her on subdivision chair.
That may have been a factor. I don't know, but just kidding.
Mr. Green's fault.
She said she wanted to do it.
Say it.
All right.
We adjourn.